Monday, the 3rd day of September, 1838, I bade farewell to the city of Baltimore, and to that slavery which had been my abhorrence from childhood. My means of escape was the following. It was the custom in the state of Maryland to require of the free colored people to have what were called free papers. In these papers, the name, age, color, height, and form of the free colored man were described, together with any scars or other marks upon his person, which could assist in his identification. More than one man could be found to answer the same general description. Hence, many slaves could escape by impersonating the owner of one set of papers, and this was often done as follows. A slave nearly or sufficiently answering the description set forth in the papers would borrow or hire them till he could escape to a free state, and then by mail or otherwise return the papers to the owner. The operation was a hazardous one for the lender as well as the borrower. It was therefore an act of supreme trust on the part of a freeman of color to put in jeopardy his own liberty for another man. It was, however, done frequently, and was rarely discovered. I was not lucky enough to resemble any of my free acquaintances closely enough to use their papers. But I had one friend, a sailor, who owned a sailor's protection, which answered somewhat the purpose of free papers, describing his person, and certifying to the fact that he was a free American sailor. The document had an American eagle on top, which gave it the appearance of an authorized document. Fortunately, this document did not describe its owner very accurately. With these papers in hand, I had my ticket to freedom and began my dangerous escape from slavery. At the train station, I was dressed in sailor fashion. My knowledge of ships and sailors' talk came much to my assistance, for I knew a ship from stem to stern. If things went well that day, it would mean a lifetime of freedom ahead of me. If things went wrong, I would have been severely punished. Needless to say, I was very nervous as I boarded the locomotive. On sped the train, and the conductor came into the Negro car to collect tickets and examine the papers of his black passengers. This was a critical moment in the drama. My whole future depended upon the decision of this conductor. As agitated as I was while this ceremony was proceeding, but still externally at least, I was apparently calm and self-possessed. He went on with his duty, examining several colored passengers before reaching me. He was somewhat harsh in tone and peremptory in manner until he reached me, when, strangely enough, and to my surprise and relief, his whole manner changed. Seeing that I did not readily produce my free papers, as the other colored persons in the car had done, he addressed me in a notably friendlier manner than he had with the others. He inquired if I had my free papers, to which I answered that I never carry my free papers to sea with me. He asked if I had something to show that I was a free man. I assured him that I did, explaining that I had a paper with the American eagle on it, and that will carry me round the world. With this, I drew from my deep sailor's pocket my seaman's protection. The merest glance at the paper satisfied him, and he took my fare and went on about his business. This moment of time was one of the most anxious I ever experienced. Had the conductor looked closely at the paper, he could not have failed to discover that it called for a very different-looking person from myself. And in that case, it would have been his duty to arrest me instantly and send me back to Baltimore from the first station. He left me with the assurance that I was all right, which made me very much relieved. However, I realized that I was still in great danger. I was still in Maryland, and subject to arrest at any moment. I saw on the train several persons who would have known me in any other clothes, and I feared they might recognize me, even in my sailor's clothing, and report me to the conductor, who would then subject me to a closer examination, which I knew well would be fatal to me. To my anxious mind, the train was moving far too slowly. Minutes were hours, and hours were days during this part of my flight. After Maryland, I was to pass through Delaware, another slave state, where slave catchers generally awaited their prey. The borderlines between slavery and freedom were the dangerous ones for the fugitives. The passage of the Susquehanna River at Havre de Grace was made by ferry boat. Once across the river, I encountered a new danger. A German blacksmith, whom I knew well, was on the train with me and looked at me very intently, as if he thought he had seen me somewhere before in his travels. I really believe he knew me, but had no heart to betray me. He saw me escaping and held his peace. The last point of imminent danger, and the one I dreaded most, was Wilmington. There, we left the train and took the steamboat for Philadelphia. In making the change, I again feared arrest, but no one disturbed me. I was soon on the broad and beautiful Delaware River, speeding away to the land of freedom, the Quaker city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. On reaching Philadelphia in the afternoon, I inquired of a colored man how I could get on to New York. He directed me to the Willow Street Depot, and there I went, taking the train that night. I reached New York on Tuesday morning, having completed the journey in less than 24 hours. This was my journey to freedom and the end of my experience as a slave.